Self-driving cars and robots solving problems and performing tasks. The advance of artificial intelligence in 2024 and a look at how it will impact our lives even more in 2025. Hello, I'm Arnold Naidu and this is The Heat. In 2024, technology took a gigantic leap forward, especially with artificial intelligence. But the rapid advancements also have governments and the industry itself strategizing on how to best keep it safe. Mark New takes a look back at this year's AI developments.
Focus on the collaboration with ChatGPT.
2024 may be remembered as the year that generative AI went well beyond writing text. OpenAI showed how its ChatGPT 4.0 could take advice and adjust personality on the fly.
Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours, there was a robot named Byte.
No, ChatGPT. I really want maximal emotion, like maximal expressiveness, much more than you were doing before.
Understood. Let's amplify the drama. Once upon a time, in a world not too different from ours.
Tech company Salesforce went all in on deploying AI agents like Sophie, which is serving as virtual customer service at Saks Fifth Avenue.
I can have it delivered within 3 to 5 business days, or it can be picked up as soon as today at Saks San Francisco. Which option works best for you?
Oh, that's great. I would love to come into Saks San Francisco and pick it up.
Great. I've placed the order and notified the in-store client advisor that you will pick up the item. They will have it ready for you within the next 3 hours.
Tech entrepreneur David Yang's startup, Nuo AI, has already launched about 100 AI agents, which he calls digital employees, at spas and restaurants.
It's a classic Roman pasta with pancetta.
Oh, that sounds so fattening.
If you're looking for something lighter, I also recommend the caprese salad.
But actually, our agents are earning more money. There is such thing we call additional secured revenue, because our agents can pick up phones during 24 hours.
A number of tech companies also showcase the ability to use AI to simulate anyone speaking in another language to reach more audiences.
而且在世界范围内，有和我一模一样的女性。
In 2024, AI ethics also became a major issue on the world stage. The UN General Assembly adopted 2 resolutions, one sponsored by China, that urged wealthy developed nations to close the gap with developing countries to ensure equal opportunity to benefit from AI.
It's the shared expectation of UN membership to enhance international cooperation on AI capacity building. Develop and utilize AI on an equal footing.
This year, AI-driven tech also spread on the streets as taking a robotaxi by the company Waymo became the norm in places like San Francisco, Phoenix, and Los Angeles. Waymo may soon have more competition, as Elon Musk unveiled Tesla's long-awaited self-driving cybercab, which is targeting production in 2026.
You'll be able to take a ride in the cybercab. There's no steering wheel or pedals. So I hope this goes well. It can see in all directions simultaneously, and it doesn't get tired or text or any of those things.
AI combined with robotics also has the potential to take on labor shortages in industries such as agriculture. We were able to see this prototype from Advanced Farm, one of the most advanced robotic apple pickers in the world. This year also saw steady advances on a product that seeks to revolutionize daily life, a humanoid robot. They appeared at tech events in different shapes and sizes, still being tested and tweaked in hopes of someday becoming a necessity in everyone's home. Mark New, CGTN, San Francisco.
Time now to bring in our panel here in Washington, D.C. Nina Xiang is a tech journalist and author of the book Red AI. From Shenzhen in China, Shaoshan Liu is Director of Embodied AI at the Shenzhen Institute of Artificial Intelligence and Robotics for Society. Wang is founder and CEO of Constellation Research. He joins us from Madrid. And from Dallas, Amr Awadallah is founder and CEO of Vectara, a generative AI company. Welcome to all of you. Amr Awadallah, let me start with you. You know, as we heard our reporter tell us there, it's been an exciting year for artificial intelligence. The technology is developing very, very quickly. What were the main developments for you this past year?
I think the main developments that is to see that the AI is being deployed in businesses and not just for fancy demos and kind of crazy examples that we see of somebody cloning somebody else's voice, but no, being leveraged in actual business for what I refer to as the I know Kung Fu moment. And the I know Kung Fu moment comes from this movie, The Matrix, which many of you should be familiar with, where Neo, in a matter of minutes, became an expert in Kung Fu. And this is really what the AI is paving the way towards for all of us right now, where we can, for any of us who are average in a given topic, we become experts right away by having the AI assistants side by side with us.
And Amr, what is the implications of that for the way things existed maybe a few years ago with people doing these jobs, people going to universities, people going to school to learn all these things?
We still have to go to university. We still have to learn these things in the same way that we had calculators. We have calculators for many decades now. Still, we go to school and we learn how to do 1 + 1 = 2. And then we use the calculator after that. Otherwise, we're not able to use the calculator in the right way. So 2 things. First, I look at these technologies as completing us, not replacing us. They will help us become much better, much quicker in many topics and many domains. That said, at the same time, those of us who correctly embrace and leverage these technologies to increase their throughputs, will be the ones that will see more job opportunities in the future.
Shaoshan Lu, China is also making major strides in AI development, especially when it comes to things like robotics as well as self-driving vehicles as well. What did you see in China as the major developments this past year?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question. The field that you just mentioned, infusing AI into robots, it's called embodied AI. If we examine the supply chain of embodied AI, we see upstream, midstream, and downstream. For upstream, we see parts and components. Most of them are also used in cars. So China is pretty much dominating in the upstream of embodied AI supply chain. And if we examine downstream, that's the application of different robots. I think also China is dominating because all the regional governments are investing heavily on utilizing robots for different tasks. For example, smart cities, delivery robots, and so on and so forth. But when we look at midstream, that's the software and system integration technology that can connect upstream to downstream, then I think US is still leading. I think China, as a country in general, and the companies within the country are investing heavily in the midstream technologies in order to complete the whole loop.
Okay, Nina, great to have you with us. Your book, Red AI, it's an in-depth look at Chinese AI and the industry there. And you also wrote another book which looks at the fierce competition currently underway between China and the United States when it comes to the development of this kind of technology. Is this kind of competition, is it a good thing for this particular sector of technology, or is it a kind of zero-sum game where one side wants to dominate the other?
So it's definitely not a zero-sum game. And also, I think we should move away from the framework of a US-China AI competition because it's no longer the case. Back in 2017 or 2018, you can say that, the US and China, they are roughly, neck to neck in AI. But now the gap between the two countries are too large. So, and also, that gap is likely going to even expand in the next 4 years, as Trump appears, set to attract global capital and talent to the US in the next 4 years. He, in fact, today just announced that anyone who invests $1 billion in the US would get expedited approval on everything. So I think, given that backdrop, we should instead maybe, adopt another framework where the US serves as the lighthouse for the whole world in a space for AI, for China, for European companies, and elsewhere.
Now, do you envisage a scenario, Nina, where, let's say, that China and the United States actually work together for the common good?
Well, the US and China are actually very complementary in technological development. Like the previous guest was saying, China is very good in applications, and the US is very good in the technological breakthroughs and setting the frontier for AI development. So there are definitely a lot of collaboration opportunities as well in AI regulation. So like I say, we shouldn't look at this purely as a zero-sum competition, but rather also a lot of collaboration opportunities. I think in the next 4 years, we'll be able to see actually the two countries can make some progress in that regard.
Ray Wang, good to see you, Ray. There is so much about AI and this new technology that we have to learn, that we have to get acquainted with. I mean, it has caused a lot of uncertainty among some people. It's caused a lot of fear among many as well. I mean, Sam Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI, and that's a major player in the industry, he said the next major development in AI will be more disruptive than people can expect. He said that by 2025, we will see what he called artificial general intelligence, in which you ask AI to complete some task, and it will use different tools to complete that. It could be, in Altman's words, more intense than people think. What does he mean by that? I mean, what are we dealing with here?
Well, the notion of average automatic general intelligence is the fact that these machines are going to think on their own and make their own decisions. Today, what we've had is we had augmentation, so it's helping us with tasks. We've had a level of acceleration, and then we've got the automation. The next set around agents and advisors are what's taking us to the ability for machines to make their own decisions. The end game of AI isn't necessarily more AI or more technology. The end game is the ability to actually do decision intelligence and decision automation. And that means machines start thinking on their own. They start making decisions. Our job is to put a level of ethics that actually keep the human in the loop. We want the algorithms to be transparent so we know what's happening in the background. We want our ability to explain how those algorithms work. We want to actually reverse them if we have a problem. And we want to continue to train them over time. But when and where we insert a human is going to be very important, because as we automate decisions, we have to decide that that's a human choice or that's going to be an automated choice. And that's how most organizations are going to start developing their capabilities to be able to make what we call decision velocity, which is the ability to make decisions more quickly. AGI is the ultimate goal of folks that are building AI, which is the ability to have intelligence inside machines where they think, believe, create, and come up with the ideas on their own without direction. We've gone from instruction-based computing to what we call intention-based computing.
Right, and Ray, when you say these machines are capable of thinking for themselves, I mean, would they be then capable of things like deductive reasoning and critical thought?
It could be, right? Today, what we are fascinated by generative AI, and that's kind of taking a probabilistic problem, saying 1 + 1 might equal to 2 99% of the time. A deterministic problem is 1 + 1 is definitely equal to, and the AGI might be like, why are we even thinking about 1 + 1 = 2? Let's go solve a different problem.
Amr Awadallah, what are your thoughts on this new technology?
I agree with what Ray just said. I mean, a good analogy to look at here is Google Maps. So Google Maps, by the way, leverages tons of AI under the hood to give us these nice directions of how we can get from point A to point B. But Google Maps, I call it more like an AI assistant, right? It's assisting us, it's telling us what to do, and then we follow its instructions. But we can override the instructions as it comes across. So that's the previous generation of AI systems. So the previous generation of AI systems were a human-in-the-loop systems, where a human still has to approve every single decision that they make. The future is more like Waymo, which you showed in the brief video earlier, where there is no human in the loop now. The car is taking the actions and deciding which shortcut to take and which street to take and which stoplight to stop at, et cetera, all by itself. Now, with Google Maps, it was very hard to do that for other domains. The AI for Google Maps was built just for Google Maps, so it's very hard to extend it to any other general purpose domain like law or accounting or engineering. And the beauty of the large language models that we have collectively developed over the last year or two is they can now be applied to any problem very, very easily.
Nina, as we just heard, these machines are capable of thinking, but I'm wondering about things like, emotions and feeling and what we sometimes call intuition that drives whatever action we take. I mean, in France recently, there was a demonstration by voiceover artists who claim that AI is taking over their jobs. So even artistic jobs are now being done by machines. And this prompted a discussion by a group of Nobel laureates. And this is what some of them had to say. Let's listen.
Many mid-level intellectual jobs will disappear fairly quickly because AI will just do them cheaper and better. That will cause people to become unemployed. It'll increase the gap between rich and poor. And we know that when you get a big gap between rich and poor, that's fertile ground for fascism.
What are your thoughts on that, Nina?
I have to be an optimist here. So I feel definitely there are concerns in terms of the increasing gap between the rich and poor. But I also feel, the application of AI could greatly increase human happiness. So, look at the people around you who work in, companies and businesses and governments, and ask them what percentage of their work they feel are meaningful, valuable, and impactful. So I imagine the answer wouldn't be a huge majority percentage, perhaps. There are small portion of people who are doing impactful and valuable job, but really a lot of people are stuck in jobs that they feel they're stuck in work processes, rigid, company culture and technological hurdles. So there are a lot of waste of human time and energy in that process. And I believe AI will free that portion of human human intelligence and allow people the time to be more creative and original and to explore their other passions. Just ask around people, who would wish they don't have to do this daily grind of job, 9-to-6 job, and then would rather pursue their passion, on the side. So I think, I have to be very optimistic in that regard. So the release of human true creativity, that's really something to look forward to.
Shaoshan Liu, in that report that we had at the beginning of the program, we saw the Chinese permanent representative to the United Nations, Fu Kong. He was talking about the need for AI technology, this technology, which is advancing very rapidly, to be shared equally among all countries in the world, not reserved for the rich countries, for the privileged few. And we have something here from another Nobel laureate, and this is what he had to say about this particular divide. Let's listen.
The way in which AI is concentrated in the hands of a very, 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 very small number of people in an extremely oligarchic, oligopolistic setting and in the hands of a very few countries is going to be a further impetus to much greater inequalities.
Shaoshan Liu, what do you imagine could be done to level that playing field, to make sure that all countries are represented equally on this field and that we don't have this digital divide where some countries get left far behind?
Well, I think, unfortunately, AI is highly monopolistic, such that whoever owns the technology will win it all. And today, I think both US and China are leading in this AI competition. We need to establish some mechanism to share the technology with other countries who are behind. In the past 20 years, we have seen the world sort of become divided, such that some countries own advanced technology, they make better revenue for their countries, and so on and so forth. But others are way lagging behind. But there's no international standard today to say, hey, if you develop such technology, you want to share with the world as a basic utility like water. I think we urgently need that mechanism.
Right, but there are examples where, modern technology has been shared, by the country that develops it to other countries. I mean, take China's green technology, for instance. It has been able to distribute its technology to the developing world.
Well, yeah, I think the first step towards that is standardization. When we talk about AI, there's no standard. What's a good AI, what's a bad AI, how we should use AI, how should we provide AI. A set of standards like that should be established.
Amr Awadallah, there's another aspect of AI which could be deployed for the common good, and that is using AI for education. I mean, could it close the gap, help teachers especially in developing countries?
Yeah, I'll answer the question, but just very quickly on your previous question, one of the key aspects to try and democratize access to AI across the world is the open sourcing nature of the AI models. And there has been a number of great contributions actually on that front from China and from the US. So we have the Llama model from Facebook, for example, but there is another large set of new models that just came out of China, all open source, that are just amazing in terms of what they're capable of doing, both in terms of reasoning, but also in terms of computer graphics and animations and videos and such. So my hope is that will continue to be the case, that organizations would release AI systems, at least the essential ones, as open source, so that that gets democratized across the world. And then you're absolutely right. My most hopeful, most impactful applications for AI fall in two categories. The first one is actually health, not education. So there has been some massive improvements when it comes to applying AI towards helping us discover new vaccines and new cures for cancer and other diseases. The AlphaFold project from Google, which is now in this third largest iteration, is doing amazing work in terms of helping us understand the human body and cure it in much better ways. Our lives will get longer because of this technology, I have no doubt about it. So that's one area to be very optimistic. And then the other area to be optimistic is exactly what you highlighted, is areas where there is scarcity of good resources. So there is scarcity of good teachers across the world. There is scarcity of good doctors across the world. So if we can now have AI assistants on our phones that are just as good as Google Maps, but for helping us learn and for helping us diagnose diseases, that would democratize much better lives for all of us across the world, especially in developing countries that don't have as much of these resources. So I'm very optimistic when it comes to that, actually.
Right, Wang, one of the most popular uses of AI is the so-called chatbot. I mean, it's very controversial. It causes a lot of anger among some people. And there are many websites where you can access this, and any modern phone, of course, has AI chatbots as well. And, we've read of cases where people spend up to an hour and a half every day talking to these chatbots. It could lead sometimes to very negative outcomes. We've seen that happen. Experts say it actually adds to the problem of being isolated and of being lonely as well. I mean, there's even a very egregious case where a 14-year-old committed suicide after engaging with a chatbot. It's beginning to look like that movie from a few years ago, the movie called Her, in which the main character actually establishes a relationship with an avatar. It was one of the first movies to sort of showcase this kind of technology. Is this very dangerous?
I mean, with all technology, there is great good and there's great evil. It's actually beholden to the human that's on the other end of that technology. And I think it requires some education. Just like social media has been shown to be dangerous in some cases, just like other technologies, we've seen this in science fiction movies quite some time. If we look at Star Trek and we look at the Star Trek economy, right? People had holodeck addiction. People had other technologies where they became attached to those technologies. That's part of the human condition. I think with education, we can actually create controls. Some countries have actually banned social media before 16. I think Australia passed a law at some point in time, and other countries are looking at that as well. The issue really isn't that. The issue is really how we want that technology to be used in society. And of course, back to the other question, which I think we all wanted to jump in on, which is the democratization of that technology and making that available. When we think about what's required in AI, it requires lots of data, lots of power, lots of capabilities in terms of compute, and a lot of money to build. And unlike the internet, what we have is a situation where AI is centralized. It has few players. It is more expensive, and more importantly, it is closed. The internet was very different. The internet by design was decentralized. It was open. It was lots of players, and it was cheaper. And we have to, as a society, figure out how we go from centralized scarcity, which is what we have in AI today, to decentralized abundance. We have to do this as well in other technologies, including energy and other areas, if we want to create that abundance and democratization to unleash that technology so everybody has access. But we also have to be responsible with it, helping people understand what that might be, whether there's an addiction, an attachment, or other kind of conditions that are going to be considered societal programs with that technology.
Amr Awadallah, one of the worst uses we've seen of AI, in fact, horrendous use of AI, is in Israel's onslaught in Gaza. It's making widespread use of AI to commit mass murder on Palestinians in Gaza. That AI targets its victims using the technology, and the AI cannot distinguish between a militant, a Hamas militant, for instance, and civilians. And as a result, we've seen tens of thousands of women and children being slaughtered in Gaza. No one is held accountable. How is something like that going to be regulated?
It's very similar to the previous topic, by the way. It's like if we expose ourselves to AI in the wrong way, it's going to be used in the wrong way and it's going to damage us. So, for example, yes, early kids having conversations with AI systems that make them fall in love with them. The AI systems are very good at saying the right things to make you think that they're the best creation ever, is very dangerous. And that's why we should have rules that no, we should not expose them to these systems until a certain age. In the same way that we tell them when you go to take an exam at school, you cannot use the calculator until you reach a certain age. Or as Ray showed the example in Australia where they said you cannot use social media until you're 16, or you cannot drive a car until you're 18. We need to have rules like that, because if we get exposed to these things too soon in the wrong way, we can end up damaging ourselves. And I think that the war that you alluded to happening right now in the Middle East is one example of that, where AI is being pushed too far, where AI is being used in the agent mode of taking actions and not just making recommendations. It's not just saying, hey, you should fire a rocket here. No, it's actually firing the rocket there as soon as it detects there's something off or an anomaly taking place. And that is very dangerous. If we leave the AI to its own devices in that way, it ends up doing mistakes. And we have seen mistakes like that where aid workers, for example, got hit by a rocket that a human would never have done that, hit aid workers with a rocket, I think, if they were in the loop. And if there is one thing that actually concerns me and keeps me up at night, is I would like to see all of our governments, especially China and the US, work together to set rules that AI would never have its finger on missile systems directly without the human in the loop.
Okay, and we have to leave it there. Thank you to all of you for being with us. That is it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C.